Hi everyone, let's talk about how I cured my hip pain naturally. Now, just after I turned 8, I started experiencing a lot of hip pain. It was even sore to the touch. I couldn't put anything in my pockets of my school trousers. Like I'll put a calculator in and it will hurt like hell. Now also about the same time I noticed that I wasn't quite as fast as my classmates, and for a kid to notice that, I must be significantly slower than my classmates. So I guess I must have impeded movements of some sort. And also the hip would randomly pinch and stuff. I mean, it was bloody annoying. Now, when I was in high school I started playing competitive tennis, and I noticed a few things that my peers could do that I couldn't. They could rotate their ankle. I could not do that, especially the left one. It was like frozen in only one dimension. It was quite funny and tragic at the same time. They could also squat. I could not squat to save my life. Always hinged from the hip when I had to pick something up. I mean, me picking up tennis balls was quite funny. That's why I learned how to pick them up with a racket. Now all of this weirdness led to decreased athletic performance, because I wasn't quite as quick as my peers. I was pretty good sideways, but forwards and backwards, no good. And also if I moved too quickly, my back would get injured so easily. I had to be so careful, which led my movements to be very guarded and slower than most of my competitors. I still managed to get to 25th in South Africa, so it wasn't too bad. Now, during this time in high school I went to doctors. Some doctors that I went to suggested it was growing pains, these hip pains. Some suggested hip disintegration, which is kind of weird since I was like 14. And some suggested it was due to my sport. But more importantly, they didn't give me any solutions or anything. So I was left with a blank at the end of the day, essentially. A blank with a lot of pain in my hip. Anyways, that led me to my adulthood. When I was an adult, I realized that if I had a chair with hand support, flipping wonderful. My back and hip didn't get as sore as often, and it was quite nice. But then later I figured out that if I got one of those exercise balls, Swiss balls, or a ball chair, it was wonderful. I could sit on it almost forever. But as soon as I tried sitting on any other surface, it hurt quite a lot. Also, driving long distance was really not fun. Right. Strangely, running barefoot helped. And it's now, during this time, I decided to go to more specialists, sports therapists, sport physios, osteopaths, and trigger point specialists. The physio that I went to was quite clever, Stefan. He diagnosed me with scoliosis. He then suggested I go on to visit a few other specialists, trigger point specialists, and good people at Sharks Rugby who could analyze my musculature. The guys at Shark Rugby found out that I have a lot of imbalances. This was about when I was 22, and that I had imbalances between my forward and back muscles. The proportion of strength wasn't correct, and my left to my right leg, they were very unequal. My right leg was very much stronger than my left leg, which makes sense because I had pain in my left hip. Which then I visited the trigger point specialists. The first one worked on my calf. It was pretty good. It helped my hip out eventually because my movement was easier. And the second one worked more holistically from the bottom of my back all the way to my feet. Now that was very effective. That helped everything and I moved a lot better. The osteopath did a bunch of manipulations on my back and my hip. It helped at the time, but it really didn't have much long-term effects. Now what was really the breakthrough for me was figuring out I have scoliosis. Up until that point, before I met Stefan, I didn't know what a scoliosis was really. And if you don't know, a scoliosis is an S-bend or a C-bend in the spine. Now after I figured out I had scoliosis, I learned all that I could about it, which then led me to realize that I actually got scoliosis when I was a kid. Just as about to turn 8, I fell into a ditch, head first, about 2-3 meters into some mud. My dad had to fish me out leg first out of it. It was quite funny for him, but I didn't feel very good afterwards. Now, interestingly, because I had scoliosis, when I sit, I would slump into my hips, which would cause some sort of strange impingement in my left hip, and not so much, and a little bit in the right as well, but not so much. Which then caused my body to protect itself from scoliosis even further, and then my movement mechanism would be modified, and now I walk differently. Now muscles in my legs would develop differently. Some will get stronger. They're not supposed to be stronger than the others. So what happened then, I would start walking even more funny, which would then hurt my hip, which would force me to walk even more funny, and then I developed flat feet. Not fun, which left me prone to injuries in my ankles and my back, especially when I tried to lunge forward, as I mentioned earlier. Now, you're not here to listen to my life story, you're here to listen to what I did to make myself better. What I realized through all this is that if you attack one body part at a time in hip injuries, you're gonna fail. You're gonna help your foot, you're gonna help your calf, you're gonna make it less flat-footed, but then you're gonna impinge the hip more. If you de-impinge the hip, you're gonna cause yourself to be more flat-footed. The key is integrating a program to combat the difference in your body that scoliosis has made. So after we started attacking the body as a unit rather than as a collection of body parts, it all worked out. We had trigger point guys working on my whole legs, we had the osteopath doing manipulations after them, and I started doing stretches and all sorts of things. Stretches, strengthening of the various muscle groups and all that. And of course, correcting muscular imbalances and tendon shortenings was crucial in all this. Also, you need to understand how the body works. There is no such thing as a quick fix in knee pain, or most pains in the body actually. So patience is key and knowledge is key. Now what specifically worked for me? Trigger point therapy from the bottom of your back all the way down your legs works wonders. Next, here's one that no one wants to talk about, but everyone should be talking about. If you have hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain, any pain in the lower body, losing weight, fantastic. I went from 90 kgs at about 50% fat to 80 kgs at about 9% fat, and some problems just disappeared. I won't lie. I used to feel a pressure in my knees when I used to bend them. That's gone. I lost a lot of muscle mass, but between being muscular and being able to bend my knees, I'll take bending my knees, thanks. Now, strength, like I mentioned earlier, strengthening imbalances in your body, you need to identify them and they need to be corrected. And when they're corrected, you're going to feel a lot better. One-on-one yoga, targeting your legs, anything to do with the quads, anything to do with the calf stretches, it's going to do wonders. Find yourself a good yoga instructor and pay them some money and let them teach you how to be flexible in your legs. Also, this was in the early recovery. In mid-recovery, I found out I could do stuff that I couldn't do before. Suddenly I could rotate my ankle almost properly. And then in mid-recovery, I also started trying to get my ankle to rotate completely. So I did a lot of mobilizations of my legs. Now the next one I started doing was walking on pebbles and other uneven surfaces like rock jumping. That was great fun with my friends. And finally I started walking more, 11,000 steps a day or more. As in South Africa, that's easy to do. And if I tried walking like that much before, my hips would just give out. So it's kind of rewarding as well. Anyways, in the late recovery, I discovered that I can now, that my legs bottom half is pretty good, I can now start targeting scoliosis a little bit more directly. I started doing pulling exercises, the rings, pull-up bars, climbing rocks, climbing in the gym, climbing trees, anything to give a bit of separation in my spine. Also started doing inversion tables and things with variable success. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and if you If you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.